Welcome to the Aligned Powerhouse, the podcast for executive women who are done leading from burnout and ready to rise from alignment. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, licensed psychologist, high performance and mindset coach, and guide for high-achieving women who are ready to lead, live, and love without abandoning themselves. Here, we unpack the nervous system truths, mindset shifts, and emotional patterns that drive your leadership so you can build power from the inside out. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me this morning, this afternoon, whenever it is that we are sitting down to have a little powwow here. Welcome to today's show. I am so excited to be bringing this conversation to you today because today we are talking about one of my favorite outcomes of the work that you have been a consistent part of. But I really want to start with it means a lot to me that you are offering me your time, your attention. That is such a valuable resource, if not the most valuable resource that you have to offer. And that is not taken lightly on my end. Now, no one asked for this, but like my process as I think about each show starts with a lot of like little voice notes to myself of just things that I am noticing or I'm getting downloads on what I want to bring to this community based on where I see us going. And from there, I put it into ChatGPT to help me flesh out my arc, right? Like no one asked for this behind the scenes. And it helps me build out a specific arc on based on how I think you are best going to receive this information. And then I copy and paste that into a Word doc. Y'all literally did not ask for this. But then what happens again is I have that up because I'm real neurospicy. If you're here, you're not new here, like you know this to be true. And then as I'm sitting and I'm sort of reading and I really sit with the episode before I hit record. And as I do that, I start to get even more downloads on what exactly my community is looking for. And so certain things will start to show up. So the episode that I have for you today is really about how high-performing women can feel more desired in their highly ambitious, high-performing relationships. This is something that women come asking me for over and over again. I'm in this marriage, but I feel like I'm his mother is like the number one thing that women come in with. And it is like my favorite thing ever to hear from someone and be like, oh my God, he planned the date night. Oh my God, he took initiative and did the grocery run. He took initiative and noticed that like he recognized this is not only my Starbucks order, but he knows that I love it on Wednesdays and he went and picked it up and I didn't have to ask him for that, right? So this is what I had walking into today's episode and we're going to hit that. But as I really sat and was just sort of like mulling and stewing on this episode, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a little spicier than I realized. There's like a lot more coming through that apparently our community needs to hear than I realized. So let's jump into it. Okay. All of that to say, I'm very excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And okay, today's episode is for the woman who wants and desires to feel pursued. Okay. This is for the woman who perhaps has been identifying as like the alpha or feels like they are being chosen second after the friend group, right? So maybe husband is consistently scheduling the boys' weekend and going out to drinks with the boys, but in terms of a date night, you are the one that's having to actually plan that out, right? This is for the woman who wants to feel emotionally considered. So rather than agreeing to a set of plans or committing to some sort of like time, like event, right? They say, hey, yes, and actually let me check with my partner first. Let me run it by my wife. Or perhaps it is declining an event because you know that she already has something going on and you're just like, you're both not going to have the emotional bandwidth, but like that genuine consideration, right? They want to feel desired without having to do something to receive it. Right? Like for me in my marriage, this looks like when my husband gives me a compliment or makes a comment toward me and I'm not dressed up. Now he makes a lot of comments and compliments whenever I am dressed up, don't get me wrong. But when I'm like really sweaty after a workout, or I'm just coming between meetings or whatever, and he like will do humor is a big part of our relationship, and so he'll do like this double take and be like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, right? Like that is sort of what we're talking about here, but just that genuine desire. And feeling chosen before you have to ask, oh my gosh, if there is one thing that I could share. And I will tell you, when I think about this episode, I think about not only is this going to make you, my community, feel seen, heard, understood. Yes, this is what I'm looking for, which like plot twist is half the issue is that women are like, I want to feel like you're leading in the relationship, but they don't have language around what this actually looks like. This episode's going to give you that. So it's meant to validate you, put language to what you're describing, but it's also one that you can like hit forward and you can send one to the bestie who's looking for the same thing, but you can also share it with your partner and be like, hey, you should go listen to Dr. Brittany because she just handed you the manual. Okay. So if you do not already, it is time to pull out your journal. It is time to make sure that your notes app is available and ready on your like phone, whatever it is that you're listening to. This episode, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited because again, if there is one thing that I could like distill, I could hand to every man, and I'm going to say that out of habit, but every partner, right? Like out of, if I could like give you a glimpse into what women want over the last decade of working with the most phenomenal women I have ever had the privilege of like coming into contact with, it is that they want to feel chosen before they have to ask. Because and this is so cliche, but there's so much data behind it, is, you know, the wife complains and says, you never take me on date night. You never, whatever it is. And the man says, what? The man says, well, you didn't tell me. Well, you didn't ask me. So this is Dr. Brittany informing every single man that she wants to not have to ask. Okay. All right, guys. So let's go ahead. Let's jump in, because by the end of today's episode, you're going to understand the single relationship shift that makes ambitious women like you and me feel safer, softer, and deeply chosen inside of your partnership without abandoning who you are, without abandoning your ambition, your standards, or your power. Like, you don't have to become this new person, which is oftentimes what I hear. So let's dive in. Now, let's really talk about like how we get here in the first place, because really what we are discussing is why high-performing women quietly become the emotional infrastructure. Now, I want to zoom in here, okay? So play with me. And I want you to think about this sentence, because I will tell you, when I am working with women, whether it is retreat, private one-to-one, whether we're just having some drinks, right? We're hanging out. When I say, oh, you are the infrastructure for your home life, in the same way that your operations department is your infrastructure in your business, they usually pause and take a minute and they're like, no. And I say, okay, always happy to be wrong, but think about it. You are providing the structure of the home. You are probably planning the menus. You are probably thinking and reverse engineering the goals for the season of your family. You are probably coordinating multiple schedules. You are probably scheduling the date nights. And then you're arranging the babysitter. And then you are making the reservation at the restaurant. You are also maintaining certain expectations and standards for the family. So maybe the children need to be in sports and they need the financial funding, right, to be able to go and do that. Perhaps there's necessary gym time for you to be able to go take care of your body and your husband to take care of his. And on top of that, we've got dentists. There is and every single one of these things I'm listing requires reverse engineering, and it requires boots on the ground. It requires someone picking up the phone and making this appointment. It requires someone communicating to the school that this appointment is coming up, making sure the kids have done their homework. I mean, infrastructure, guys. I'm so happy to be wrong if that is here, but most women that I work with are phenomenal at doing this at work. And on top of that, not only that, they're also doing risk mitigation. So they're also saying, okay, well, in January, our top 3 goals were boom, boom, boom. It is now May, June, whenever it is, and we haven't done X, Y, and Z. So now I'm projecting into the future and saying, hey, we're not going to meet our goal unless we do this, this, and this, right? Like you are functioning as C-suite visionary and operations. And you tell me like one company, unless you're like an entrepreneur and you're starting out, where that makes sense. Right? It doesn't. And so this is where you really like competence and ability really gets fused with identity. A lot of people talk about this, especially on Instagram, and they're like competence and ability to move forward, whatever. Like it's part of your identity. And most people are like, yes, oh my gosh, slay. But they don't actually understand what that means. This is what that means. Is that your nervous system, your cognitive profile, meaning the 12 underlying factors that make up your ability to have executive functioning, so on and so forth, are uniquely and beautifully well, like they're very well set up. How do I want to say that? Like they're set up in such a way that you are really going to be very good at these tasks because you have excellent working memory, you have excellent long-term memory, you have excellent executive functioning in general, and you are really good at juggling a lot of different things, right? Because of this, you assume I am good at X, Y, and Z. That is the fusion. Hey y'all, Dr. B here. I am scooching in here for a quick second because I have a question for you. Do you know which of the 4 powerhouse profiles you are yet? Because let me tell you, there are 2 things that decide how you lead, live, and love. The first is how much you trust your own instincts, and 2 is how much of your true self the world actually gets to see. Where those 2 things meet is your profile. And once you know yours, everything about how you show up at work and at home not only starts to make sense, but it becomes malleable and you can evoke change. The quiz is just 10 questions, takes about 2 minutes. It is free. It is my gift to you. I am so grateful that you are here. I love the community that we have built together. Find the link in the show notes and find your type today. Now let's get back to the show. Between competence and identity. And it's the biggest trap that I see, because here's what happens in your brain that you don't see behind all the Instagram reels and all of like, no shade, but like a little bit of shade. Okay. And I'm one of them, but like what you don't see is that what you believe about yourself will always be true because you are lighting up your reticular activating system in your brain. Now, that neural network is what is behind the woo version of we are manifesting who we are, okay? It's also the exact reason why there's like this new trend going around right now where people are basically saying, come up with like an alter ego and you will become her. Like when you step into her and you act like this person, right? And make her audacious, make her expensive, make her untouchable, right? when you have this idea and you can see it, all of a sudden you are not only going to behave in alignment with this version, you are also going to find evidence over and over and over again that you are in fact that bitch. Okay. I'm sorry. I hope there were not children in the car. Like you are absolutely that girl. Another way to say this is there was a season of my life where I really wanted a charcoal forerunner. At that time, I saw charcoal forerunners everywhere. And if you look at the data, right, Toyota was not producing more charcoal forerunners. It was simply that my brain was attending to that, right? I was finding data to support the claim that like I needed a charcoal forerunner. And so what happens is we have this idea of I'm really incredible at holding all of these things. Well, now you're going to be looking for confirming data to support this identity that is keeping you stuck in a relationship where you don't feel desired, where you feel second best, right? So this is the first issue. The second, and it's a little bit more nitpicky, is that you are anticipating responsibility. Okay. You are anticipating that if these things, if you don't do them, then they're not going to get done. Now, I'm not saying this is never true. What I am saying is that this belief, this idea is what keeps women stuck in this cycle for years, for decades, because they just assume it's true. Okay. If there's one, I'm sure there's more. I have a group of clients right now and they're like, we need to make a book of like Brittany sayings. I'm like, oh my God, I would be terrified to see that book. But one of the things I say over and over and over again, and that I say over and over and over again, very intentionally, because I want it to stick with my clients, is who said? Who says that's the rule? Who says? And now you might say it's the rule, or perhaps the economy is saying that it is the rule, or your boss is saying the rule. But like most of the time, I would say 10 out of 10 times, there's more flexibility than we realize. So whenever you come up to this limiting belief of, well, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. Cool. Who says? Because if we cannot introduce some curiosity, you're really going to get stuck in the same pattern that you are in that you want to get out of. Okay. So over time, what happens is that these high performing patterns, because keep in mind, these things are also what build excellent businesses, not sustainable ones, but highly profitable ones. It is also the same skill set that is going to probably push you to climb the corporate ladder a lot quicker than your peers. It is also the thing that, let's just be honest, is going to allow your business to continue to iterate and build and improve, especially in a time such as right now where AI is rampant and is coming for a lot of different careers. It's also creating other careers and opportunities. Let us not get that mixed, but the reality is there's very genuine concern there, right? And so all of these things that help you build the shiny on the outside, right, are also the exact same things that are going to follow you into intimacy. Now, here's the belief I want to challenge you on, because it is one I've never met a woman who did not hold this belief. Doesn't mean they're not out there. But without intense internal work, right, there is this belief that once I go home, I'm going to become a new person. Well, at home, I'm able to ask for what it is that I need. I'm able to receive support, and that support just isn't showing up. False. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. Your nervous system, I say this so often, but your nervous system that has built the external success is the exact same nervous system and electrical wiring that is building this internal collapse within your most important, so you say, relationships. Okay, these patterns of overfunctioning are going to follow you behind closed doors. So if you are someone who is exceptional at leading these systems, you are also exceptional at managing your intimate relationships. And I really need to get you on board with this belief in order for the rest of this episode to land. So if you need to like hit pause, if you need to have a few choice words, whatever it is, I need you to do that because this is a really important thing to understand. It truly sets the stage for growth, for change in like behavioral pattern. It's so important. And now let's distill this even further, right? Let's really talk about what this looks like. It looks like you are planning every single date night, even after you complain that he doesn't ever plan. You're still doing it. You are the first one to notice when there's emotional distance. Perhaps you are the only one to notice that there is emotional distance. You are the one to initiate intimate conversations, to say, hey, I want to talk about more than what's on the news. I want to talk about us. I want to talk about more than just the kids who are just as easy to talk about as the weather, right? But I want to talk about something rich and existential. You are the one that is tracking the family logistics. If you are the one who remembers the birthdays and the gifts and the details, right? If you are the one who is the relational operating system, then chances are this is something that you are very deeply connected to. Okay. And here's the even like deeper layer here, guys, or like the deeper issue is that if you don't even realize that there's an issue here until you are yearning for something different, that's a huge red flag, right? Even one step further than that, shoot, like this just shows up for me. If you don't even realize how much you're carrying until you wonder what would happen if you stopped carrying it, at that point you are very, very fused with this overfunctioning. Okay. So here's the next thing I want to get into is that, most women feel connected when emotional leadership is shared. And we don't actually know how to do that. And this is where we really do look at differences between home life and work life, right? Because at work, there are very genuine leadership dynamics that like they're in place for a reason. We do not want, like, it logistically does not make sense for someone who is in the C-suite, whether you are a founder and you're collapsed into one, or you are genuinely sitting at like the top of a corporate company and you are in C-suite, it does not make sense for you to come in and be like, okay, I want to share some like emotional intimacy with someone who is like boots on the ground, right? Their way of developing relationship is going to have to look different because the results, the outcome, the output that we are looking for in a business is different than a marriage. There's shared vision, there's shared responsibility, but a lot of times what I see is that women bring the same frameworks and they start to muddy them. Right? We want that distinction in a company and in a business versus at home. And women need to know to ask for this, is that really what we are looking for is a shared responsibility in specifically emotional leadership. Okay. So here's what we are actually looking for is that emotional consideration. And this looks like, hey, something was put on my calendar and I'm not going to be home until 7 versus I'm usually home at 5. Let me text and let my wife know. Right. Hey, a buddy just invited me on a golfing trip, but I know that I've already gone on a trip. So I really want to like check in with you. How are we doing? Also, I went ahead and scheduled a vacation for us and like our family. I haven't been prioritizing that, right? Like just consideration. Initiative is huge. There's an excellent book. Oh my gosh, there's so many excellent books, actually, now that I start. Two that are very excellent that you may or may not enjoy, but are like horrifyingly accurate. The first is No More Mr. Nice Guy. Excellent book, green cover, 10 out of 10 recommend. And then the second is When He's Married to Mom. This is really getting into maternal enmeshment. If you are someone who struggles with taking initiative, both of those books can be excellent supports, right? But this is what we think of when we think of taking the lead. Hey, I scheduled date night. I've already arranged the babysitter. Be ready to go at 5. Emotional attentiveness. So if your partner is someone who can go off into like la la land in their head and they're thinking about something, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like my husband does this. He is so ADHD, and it's hilarious because, well, I think it's hilarious. Depending on like where we're at in our relationship, right? As long as we're good and we're moving, right? So like right now I'm like, that's so funny. And if you ask me when things are more tense, I'd be like, it's the freaking worst. But he and I will be having a conversation and all of a sudden his face will change because his mind starts to wander because he has ADHD, and it takes a lot of cognitive effort for him to sit and give attention. So within that, right, if I have an important conversation, if I have something that I'm like, I definitely want your full attention, I schedule it ahead of time, or he will schedule it ahead of time, right? I really want to hear what you have to say. And also I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night. Like I want to go to bed, right? But that is having the emotional wherewithal and attentiveness, or to be attentive, right? Now, steadiness is another one that like this is what we are actually looking for. And again, ladies, this is meant to, like, I'm handing you the list of things that you're probably looking for and you don't realize so that you can hand it to him, right? But there are very real differences between men and women when it comes to our hormones. And women are consistently riding some sort of cycle versus men tend to be a little bit more steady. And I'm going to like sidetrack just here a little bit, okay? Because the other thing I want you thinking about is if these are the things you are asking for, if this is what we are putting our order in at the restaurant, and they come back and they say, hey, in order to give you the steak, I'm going to have to charge you, I don't know, like, or if you want the steak and the potato and you want it, I don't know. This analogy is falling apart, but like, if you want it done a very specific way, okay, I'm going to have to charge you $5 extra. Are you willing to put that in there? If the answer is yes, then okay, I'm going to pay, whatever, right? The same is true in relationships, just like in business, right? You want more revenue? Cool. You're going to have to put in 8 extra hours a week, whatever it is. Are you willing to make the sacrifice necessary to get the output that you want? As you're listening to this list, if you're like, okay, I want my husband to have more initiative, more attentiveness, more steadiness, you as their partner need to be ready when they come back and they say, okay, well, in order to do that, perhaps they need to go to therapy to talk about their mother, to figure out why this is so hard in the first place for them. Perhaps what they need is a little bit more financial cushion. And so you need to step up your game in your business, in your career, in order to be able to provide that. Perhaps what they need, this is a big one in our house, is that my version of relaxing is literally for Mother's Day. This is going to sound to some of y'all like I'm crazy, but like literally for Mother's Day, we had a really beautiful morning. We went and we had a picnic, and Nick planned it. We went to the same park that he proposed at. It was precious. It was overcast, so the weather was beautiful. He had flowers. The kids had flowers. They had cards. Oh my gosh. It was so and it was so me, right? Like not big, flashy, whatever, but it was like, we're outside, we're with the kids, we're not doing anything. It was the best. When we came back, I told him what I want is to be able to clean the playroom. I want to reset it. I want to go through and like deep organize everything. And I don't want anyone to touch me. I want my not AirPods, but I want my headphones on, and I want to listen to my music and my podcast, and I want to just clean. Oh my gosh, is the freaking best, right? That is how I relax. Not all the time, but generally doing something very monotonous that gives me a very quick dopamine hit is relaxing. My husband's version of this is sitting, reading a book in the quiet. Okay. I can do that for like a few minutes, but y'all, it's freaking hard for me. Okay. That's hard. And so we have really, and on top of that, I'm very extroverted. Never met a stranger in my life unless I ran out of social battery. And then I'm like, I won't speak to you. But my husband is very introverted. So this really can pull tension into our relationship, especially when it comes to like the kids wanting to go and play outside, or they want to go to a friend's house because they're at an age where that requires something specific of us, right? Well, if we manage the order the right way, if we say, okay, I really want Nick to be the one who takes the kids to the friend's house today, then his request is usually that I need a little bit of time to recharge after that. I need to be off the clock after that. Versus for me, when I do that, that can actually really fill my cup. Doesn't mean I always want to be that person, but it means you need to be aware that what you are asking for each person is going to come with a different price tag. Okay. So again, like here's the thing, right? Is that, and a lot of people don't realize, is that this chronic responsibility, it happens over time. It does not happen the first time it happens or the first 2 times it happens. But this chronic responsibility is actually what is killing the softness and the ability for women who probably relax by doing something / that's very challenging for us. The chronic responsibility is going to eat away because it is actually a skill for you to come in and relax. It's a skill for you to come in and surrender control, because that's really what it is, right? Because it's your nervous system that is keeping you moving. And I don't care which end of the gamut you are on, intimacy requires vulnerability in your nervous system. And unless you are like an alien who is wired for intimacy 24/7 and you I laugh because I'm like, this just doesn't exist. Like in our society right now, we are so overstimulated. We have so many expectations on us. For so many of us here in this community, we are mothers, we are business owners, we are corporate giants. Like we're not going to be wired for intimacy, or you would probably not have a job. You probably would not be listening to this podcast, right? Therefore, if you want your nervous system to do something that it's not used to doing, it's going to take a hot minute. You're going to have to support it in being able to do what you actually want it to do. Okay. So I want to zoom in. Now I want to zoom in, because here is where I want to show you what this actually is going to look like. So like, fellas, take out your books. Okay. Take out your little journal, take out your little, wherever it is that you make notes to yourself. Even better. Oh, love this idea. Just came to me. Even better. If you are, if you are a man who is receiving this episode from your wife, I want you to take a few notes down on a Post-it, and then I want you to go directly take those notes and go freaking put them in your calendar. Okay. Because I don't know, at least the guys that I know, they live and die by their calendars. And when I'm like, oh, did you put date night on the calendar? Not just date night, but also reminders of, hey, time to get the babysitter. Hey, time to make the reservation. Like all of these things, if you reverse engineer date night, it isn't crazy every single time. And you can build a system. Like it doesn't have to be sexy and spontaneous. It could literally be, hey, every 4 weeks or every week or every 2 weeks, we are having a date night. So therefore I get to go schedule this thing and then click repeat every 4 weeks, and it's done. It's done. Okay. So a few examples of what this actually looks like is that he plans the date night. And it could even look a little bit different here, right? Like it could be that he plans date night. So within my marriage, I have quote unquote planned date night, which means I put it on the calendar because that is a very easy strength for me. What my husband does is he arranges childcare and he decides where we're going, because once I get there, I'm like, absolutely not. You do it. Okay, this can also look like he is noticing your stress before you have to take it. And zooming in even farther on this one, perhaps it's literally that you are making a manual. You're writing a manual. I always tell my couples to do this. Oh my gosh, I used to do couples work like way back in the day. And I used to literally have couples write a sex manual and it was great. And then I had them do a relationship manual. And like, I want you to literally break it down and be so observable and specific, not just like, I'm looking to feel cherished. I'm looking to feel or like I'm looking to like have an orgasm, but like, no, I want you to walk me through the steps. And if you're too uncomfortable to actually do that, we got a bigger problem, and it's not really about a sex life. Okay. But the same could be said in terms of, in particular with my audience, right? Is okay in, gosh, I'm thinking about like in certain industries, Q2 and Q3 are like insane. That is when the fiscal year is ending. And it is like, crazy pants. Like I know that in order to get on some of my clients' calendars, particularly like June is one of those months, May is one of those months, but like I better have it scheduled 3 to 4 months in advance because we just know their seasons are going to pick up. So perhaps it's literally writing out a manual that says, hey, this is what stress looks like, and this is what I need in those moments of stress for Q2, Q3. Or before a big launch, or before I need to go retrain a team or whatever, right? But getting so specific. This also looks like a husband who is protecting family time. So putting their phone down, turning the TV off. Oh my gosh, like recently my husband has like taken up reading, right? I say recently, it's been a few months. But it came from this mutual desire for both of us to get off of our phones more and to increase like face-to-face time, work on regulation, things like that, right? And it's been huge because he was like, that's not what I want my kids to remember of their childhood, whatever, right? Okay, another one is following through consistently. So how often are you actually doing that? Prioritizing your relationship publicly. Guys, write this down. Oh my gosh. Every single time you go and like her post, you perhaps go and repost her post. I have someone in my community and their partner, oh my gosh, her spouse is so good at this. And he probably thinks I'm such a little creep because I am just like, yes, like every single, he will brag on his woman. He will brag on her. He will create content about her. And now he is, my experience of him is that he is artsy, right? So this is also enjoyable is what the story I tell myself, to him. But like, it is a public declaration of this is my woman and look at her and look at what she is building. Look at who she is. Oh my gosh. This is something I hear women over and over and over asking for, right? That public declaration is huge. And when this happens, you are building such a buffer in your relationship, right? So here's the other thing that I want to add in here. And this is where I was like, we're going to get a little bit spicier than I realized, because I want to tell you the biggest thing, the biggest issue that I see actually getting in the way for women is like that they have, like, you can hand someone the manual, and you know this if you're listening here. If you are a high achieving, high performing woman and you realize that just because you ask for something doesn't mean, one, that you're going to get it, or two, it's not going to be done the way that you would do it. Like, this is the thing that really holds women back and that I really encourage you to think about is like, one, I want you to be so specific in what it is that you're asking for. But two, you have to be willing to accept that when you ask, he is going to do it in his own way. It's not going to look the same as when you are the one who is planning date night. Perhaps childcare is going to be scheduled later. Perhaps the reservation is going to be forgotten. Perhaps it's that he's planning a vacation, but he's doing it really last minute, and it's not where you would have liked to have gone. Ladies, this is where we really and truly get in our way, and where there is a calling into not a higher self, but a higher regulated self. Because it's going to take regulation to say, hi, here are the things that I really want, and I am actively going to step out of overfunctioning. Instead of picking it up and doing it for my partner, I am going to go sit and take some deep breaths. Or whatever it is, right? And even the call to step out of this cycle in the first place is going to require immense regulation. So communicating the desires before you have resentment, right? Once you are at the level of resentment, we're kind of like stage 5. We got an issue. We got a much bigger issue than we realized, okay? Ideally, you are recognizing that you have these internal cues that are off way earlier. And that is going to require some nervous system regulation to get you up and out of that spot, right? The other thing, because I always leave you with like practical, tactical tips, right? So here, I also want to invite you to, and this can feel like I talk to a lot of women who initially are very resistant to this one, but I want you to think about rewarding progress over perfection, okay? I want you to reward initiative rather than focusing on what didn't happen, because this is what a lot of women don't want to admit to, is that even when their partner tries their best and it just doesn't turn out perfect or whatever, like your partner's learning a brand new skill, and whether or not you like it, you are actually the one who has taught him this skill. Maybe you weren't the first one, but you are certainly in this relationship 50% responsible for this dynamic. So allow him the same grace that I offer to a new employee who's learning a new skill. If you're genuinely committed to the relationship, allow them to be a beginner and reward them for taking steps forward and being willing to do it messy. And the biggest thing I want to offer you is to stop assuming that if I don't do it, no one will. This will keep you stuck in this trap time and time again. And again, you are going to need immense regulation to be able to hold to that, because there's also a chance that it could be true. There's a chance it's not. But if you genuinely want to disrupt the pattern, you have to be willing to see what happens on the other end if you don't hold this to be true. So I really want to leave y'all with, the healthiest relationships are not built on one person being endlessly capable. They are built on two people who are continuously choosing to figure life out together, and that are figuring out a way, like they're figuring out what their relational formula is going to look like. And it's going to be a dance. There's going to be back and forth, and the order might change based on the season, right? I have way more grace for my husband than I did before kids. Like, don't ask me what happened, but like, I think I got so much messier in motherhood that it really softened pieces of me. And at the same time, my husband really stepped up in these big, huge ways. Like emotionally, he has matured in so many ways. And so it has really evoked a different kind of cushion around our relationship. Right now, it doesn't always happen that way. And to be just like straight up, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of resources to set your relationship up that way. But thinking about the premise of how do we set ourselves up for success, and what is our relational formula? What is it that it takes for us to actually meet each other's needs and our own needs first in order to meet a mutual goal? So I hope that today's episode was helpful. Do me a favor, if y'all enjoyed it, leave a review down in the show notes. I don't know, wherever you leave reviews. It really, truly, like, it helps the show and it really supports the mission of this podcast. And in addition, I hope it's one that you are able to use, like, not only in your own personal journey, but perhaps one is that sparks conversation within your relationship, and gives your partner some tactical takeaways as well. Alrighty, y'all. I will see y'all on the next show. Alrighty, friend, that is all for today's episode of the Aligned Powerhouse podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And do me a favor, if this episode resonated, I want you to share it with another powerhouse woman in your life who is ready to lead and love from a place of self-trust. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really does help more women find this work. New episodes drop every week. Until then, lead with self-trust and let yourself be seen.